Hello, everyone. Welcome to Proc-N-Roll, your guide to practical procurement, where we make procurement Proc-N-Roll. In this mini jam session today, I've got Conrad with me, who's red eye from a long flight, but who's in the zone. And we're going to have a great conversation about agents. Obviously, OpenAI has now released Atlas, the Agentic browser. And Conrad, you've been doing some experimentation with your team. And oh my God, what this thing can do, right?
Yep. Prepare to have your mind blown, folks. I think we're just unpacking this thing right now, but it's go check it out. Look at the demo that they have online, and then start playing with it. We're going to talk a little bit about this today, but super cool. If I look back 30 years of working in procurement tech, there's this trade-off that I always see us talking about. Some users want to browse through a tree. Think about think the old web page structure. I want to click on this and find my way here and click down into this. And I would liken that a little bit to like a TurboTax. I don't know if you're familiar with TurboTax, but like a really wizard, let me ask you a question. It's a lot like the orchestration platforms that we're seeing today. I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to give me an answer. And then I'm going to ask another question. And then I'm going to ask another question. And I'm going to handhold you through this process in a very, primary school sort of a way. And then you have other users that are power users that would look at that process and go, you're friggin' wasting my time. Just give me the table and I'll put the data into the table. So, I'm not sure there's a single answer that's going to be the thing for everybody. Because when even me, when I look at TurboTax, I toggle between give me the form and give me and walk me through it. Because sometimes I don't know it very well and I need you to walk me through it. But once I understand it, the walking me through it takes 10 times as long. And I just need to jump to where I need to go, get it done and be done. So I think it's going to be the same way. I think there's going to be users that need the hand holding or need the agent. Like this browser today, we've heard about it on podcasts already. Agent mode will book your airfare for you. Have you booked airfare with an agent yet? Have you ever done that?
But would I trust an agent to book an airfare? No, I haven't. But would I even trust an agent to do it? Because how do I know? Because for me, maybe it is something you got to get over. Because for me, I would constantly be questioning: did it book the right ticket? Did they pay the best price for the right ticket? I almost these days I want to double check everything the AI is doing, or a lot of what the AI is doing. I don't have that deep sense of trust yet. And booking an expensive ticket is now, if I booked that ticket myself 3 times before, and I'd be like, hey, can you rebook the exact same ticket? That I think I've got a lower bar. But if I'm going on a trip to Cancun or something, hey, can you book me a ticket? I'm going to want to be more involved in that and more oversight of that. So I guess it really depends on, the stakes, how high the stakes are, right? For example, if you just got a call from your boss who's like, hey, what's going on with this supplier, or we had major risk incident, let's go check all our suppliers who might be exposed. Would you sit there typing a prompt for an agent and expect the agent to go and, no, I think you'd probably want to feel in control. And so you probably want to take the steering wheel, right? So I guess maybe it's 2 layers to this. One is autopilot, and where in an autopilot mode, the agent can do stuff because it's trained and you can depend on it. But then there's a take control mode, which is, firefighting or dealing with something urgent or something really, really important, which maybe you don't want to give to an agent because humans, I guess, like to have a sense of control over things, right? Otherwise, what do you need people for?
Yeah. Well, so it's a very interesting answer to that question, because I answered it almost exactly the same when a guy from Google X asked me. He kind of asked the question because they have Waymo running around San Francisco, right? And Waymo, the brain behind Waymo is one driver. So every car, every experience, every learning that's going on feeds back into that, basically the brain of the Waymo driver. And then that brain shares that out to all the cars. And I don't know what it is, hundreds of millions of hours, of billions of hours, whatever it is, of actual road drive experience and training, simulated driving experience, incredibly surpasses. It isn't even close to what us as humans are doing in our cars. And there's evidence, there's data from the cars driving around that they're safer than humans. They have less accidents and everything else. Yet you go into some cities and they try and implement Waymo, and the cities are like, no, you can't do that. Or you or I don't know if you've been in a Waymo car, a car that doesn't have a driver. Like, I think most people are still kind of anxious about that. I almost got in one last week, but the way Uber worked, it offered a Waymo car, and then there was another like car closer by, so we got in a Tesla, and it was with a driver. And but the adoption of AI, in my opinion, has to do with just what you said, the risk and the reversibility. And I remember very distinctly when the internet was happening for the first time, and people were trying to get you to buy stuff on the internet. You were probably just a small child and you don't remember that, Zach. I don't know.
I remember. I do. I remember buying stuff when, back when commerce was like it's early 2000s for me.
Well, in the 90s, it was like, is it even possible that? Yeah. So is it possible that people are actually going to buy stuff online? You know, how's that going to work? And then what did the credit card companies do? The credit card companies said, hey, if there's fraud, then we got your back. We internet fraud or whatever it is, like we'll take care of it. And what happened? Everyone started using their credit cards all over the internet because they had the safety net underneath them. So once you have the safety net, I mean, when I buy an airplane ticket on Delta, I can cancel the ticket, and within 24 hours, there's no fee. So there's a bit of a safety net there. And if it's beyond 24 hours, then it just goes into my wallet, no rebooking fee. So it's not lost money. It's just money that I can't get my hands on. So I don't know. I think there's some really interesting things here. And this browser now.
Agent insurance, right? Like literally.
Yeah.
Insurance for agents in your business making decisions, it could be a real thing.
We talk about risk all the time on this podcast, right? And it's sort of like, well, what happens when, how do you identify the probability and impact of something, and then do that assessment and then make that determination? So I think, low probability of failure, low impact of failure, easy decision. Go ahead and throw the agent at it without a bunch of human interaction. And as you get into high impact, even if it's medium or low probability, then you're going to want to kind of watch it along the way. But what I saw yesterday, Zach, is you can say, go figure out the best flight for me to get from here to New York on Tuesday. I want it to be a direct flight. And, whatever your constraints are. And then it will go find those flights for you. And then it will come back. And then you can say, well, go book the Delta, 387 flight or whatever. And it will go do that. So I don't think it has to be I think by the nature, almost like the way that they have it set up, it's interacting back with you. And if you gave it a prompt that was like start to finish prompt, like go find this, book it, and then get me a hotel and send me the receipt, it would, you could go that path, but it'd be really easy to implement what you said, which is just sort of the step by step where you have some approval gates along the way that you kind of work your way through.
Yeah, I suppose it depends. Like if it's concrete things like just find me the best flight, and there's a concrete number of flights and stuff. But if your request becomes more abstract and more complicated, like maybe you're evaluating different options for different routes using different travel modes, like flying or traveling by car. And I guess the more you give the agent, but I don't know. Here's where my head's going. If adoption, happens and like people are more comfortable using these agents, and especially in the context of procurement and like graphite and all the rest of it, what happens to the procurement role? Yeah, like what does procurement then focus on if suppliers and procurement people are, for example, using agents to complete questionnaires and do risk checks and check the policy? And what becomes the main focus of the procurement professional? The sourcing manager, the category manager. I think all these roles fundamentally then change. If I'm imagining a world where actually agents are fully embedded, right?
Well, I mean, this first version of agent that I'm seeing in the app isn't a deeply integrated agent. It in RPA where it's kind of running the app and you can see it run the app. Same kind of a thing like here in terms of what I saw happening yesterday. So it's running on top of things. I think it's going to get better and faster than that, no question about it. And we have a human designed world, and the apps are human designed as well. So once you get to a point where you have agents running free in the world, you're going to have agent designed apps that I think create some other efficiencies as well for those low risk, low impact, low probability kind of situations. But I don't know, Zach, if you told me, hey, Conrad, you have access to one or more of these agents that can be running, right alongside you all day long, what does your job look like? And I would say, well, my job looks like I'm not spending time doing low risk, low impact things, right? I'm outsourcing to my agent virtually everything that happens in my day that I can put in that box that's that's low risk. And I just have the agent do those things. And it could be, I saw it yesterday interacting with our app. Casey asked it a question and was like, who are all my suppliers that do catering? And it goes to the app, searches, it finds it, brings it back. It actually went and it enriched that data a little bit with some internet information to say, well, these guys and this guys and those guys, and these are your suppliers. People have to go, that data should be easier to find for the whole world than it is today. And once you have things at your data at your fingertips, information at your fingertips, insights and recommendations at your fingertips, I just say cut the administrative part of your life out and just say you have somebody to go do that for essentially free. Then what does your life look like? I think it just means that you're climbing that ladder of complexity, higher risk stuff where more human interaction and more deep insight is needed. So I don't know, Zach, if you've built your career with your, and I'm pointing at myself, like, let me look at a mirror because I'm really good at automating stuff and doing that hard to and just grinding through that hard stuff. Like I'm amazing at that. And I'll figure out how to automate it and it will make me look like a hero. But if you've become sort of a hero in your career by being really good at the administrative side of that continuum, watch out, because everybody's going to get really good at the administrative side of that continuum. I think everybody now has to be looking into that strategic side and going, okay, how can I, what's up there? If I'm not crutching on this stuff and looking like a hero on the bottom of the stack, how do I get to the top of the stack?
I think it's everyone hates admin. Everyone I know hates admin. I hate admin, right? But you're right. I guess I'm trying to envision, if you take all the admin out of the job, then it's literally just conversations, human conversations left, right? And even those you can design. I think in the future you'll be able to design agents that can operate at a much more complex, more human level in terms of making decisions, planning, strategizing. Eventually you might get agents that do the more complex knowledge and stuff. And even you read about, I'm just thinking out loud here, but you read about all these stories about how teens these days are forming relationships with AI, right? And they actually, and I think I saw a survey a couple of days ago, which said a lot of teens had responded in the survey that, yeah, they get emotional responses from the AI, they see it as a relationship almost, right? I'm not talking romantic or anything. I mean, just in terms of,
yeah. I think it's really easy. In fact, if you watch AI in your browser today, it will say something I'll ask it a question. I'm constantly interacting with Gemini now, and it's I asked my wife, as I think she's been through several surgeries, and so I've been interacting with AI, asking questions about things she's going through now, and it's saying stuff like, "Wow, that must be really hard. I'm sorry to hear that." They're building this empathy layer into the response that is obviously counterfeit. This is not real human empathy, but it does strike imagine if the response was, well, you idiot, why did you do that anyway? That's what you're such, like, it can easily turn our response on the receiving side of these things into negativity or positivity, just how it crafts that language. But it's still just a stupid machine response.
I mean, social media case in point. Like, so many people are online anonymous, posting all these comments, and yet people read comments and they get like angry and pissed off, because they're like, oh, like, it's like, but you don't even know the person who's commented. It's just the words on the screen are having this effect on you, right? And it's the same kind of concept, I guess, with an AI, just putting those words on the screen. And the other big issues, I think people are willing, this is on a personal level, less so a business level, are willing to give the AI, like, because the AI doesn't judge you, right? Like, AI is not a human. It can tell on you, but only if hackers hacked it and stuff. Otherwise, it's meant to, like, protect you, protect your data and stuff. And it's almost like, you can easily see how people will I think it's a very strange world where we're going.
Well, I think it's going to take some time, personally. I mean, this is going to come in stages. The stages are probably going to move faster than most of us are comfortable with, but everyone's going to be comfortable in the beginning with, hey, this admin is, because, I mean, I could open up this browser. I got to go play with it. Like I said, I'm more of a Gemini. Gemini is going to be out with their version of this in December. I'm super excited to see that. I mean, my buddy's already basically said, he's planted the winter flag in front of OpenAI because of this move. Perplexity announced a browser, I think, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. Like, so OpenAI isn't the first one, but this one is massively cool. But everyone's going to be like, okay, let's do the admin stuff. And then what's going to happen next? Well, okay, it just starts climbing up the ladder. Think about in supply chain when you're at like the very pinnacle of value and you have someone in supply chain working with someone in product engineering and maybe even material science and chemical engineering, and they're looking at a product that they're going to replace back in, like, I'm talking science, like detailed science level stuff. And the question is, can we replace this other component with this component? It's got different product implications. And you could ask AI what it thinks about that. And it actually, on the science side, might give you some interesting data to help guide you. But again, that's all the way up in this high risk continuum. Are you going to allow AI to say, oh yeah, just swap out the parts? And you're, if you trusted the AI too early, kind of like you said early in our conversation today, you could go down a path and swap that out and actually create a safety issue, a quality issue, like there's so many issues you could create as you get up that stack. And I think that starts, as you get to that level, you start getting into things where you might actually need to do laboratory testing. You might have to break this part down and, get a part, break it down, put it against all of the physics and chemistry tests that you do in material science on the stuff that's happening.
The question here is, can the AI and the corpus of knowledge on which AI is based ever speed ahead of humans? Like, is there a point where we reach where actually AI is so good that it's always going to come up with better ideas? It's going to do better testing of those ideas. It's going to be able to iterate on itself better than a human. Or will there always be an element where, because the AI is trained on human data, of course, there will be AI generated data in the future, but because of that, actually humans always have an edge over the AI. I think it's a very abstract kind of topic, right? But
well, people are predicting that, right? Everyone's kind of talking about this. What do they call that? General intelligence or something, where it takes everything over. But yeah, I don't know, Zach. I have to believe that it will continue to climb up and part of that climb, I think, goes back to what are we willing to do? First level climb. What are you willing to turn it over to? Your life over? Yeah, sure. Find a time on my calendar where Zach and me and Anthony can get together and meet. And it can look at your, and book the time, set up a Zoom call. Like, this is super low risk, super easy, but weirdly enough, something like that could burn of our combined time. It could burn 20 to 40 minutes by the time we go back and forth in 6 emails of our different calendars. And so that stuff will just fall off the bottom. That's the obvious stuff. And then it will just start climbing up the top. And in 5 or 10 years, is AI going to, I mean, you've got to ask yourself, not just is the brain of the AI capable of this, but once you start, remember I talked about physics and science experimentation in a lab, that would mean robotics of some sort or another. Or you guys really cracked me up or listened to the podcast before about, well, maybe my boss is AI. So you could have a lab tech who AI is telling it, go test these things and give me back the results. But one way or another, some of the physical world, like learning and testing and evaluating, feeding back into that AI brain in order to make some final determinations. And that's like, I mean, again, that's like at the top of the pyramid. I think most of what we're talking about in procurement doesn't require that kind of, hands-on, physics consideration. But I think it's going to be a while before I personally am ready to sign a contract that was purely thought out, forecasted, by AI and just says, "Hey, Conrad, go sign this." I need more determination than that.
I was going to ask Conrad, how long do you think it'll take you before you can trust an AI to execute a contract, for example? Let's say it's a standard type of contract, not huge spend, not just that, normal level of risk.
But so I would go back to what we talked about, which is there's look at the risk continuum. And you just started outlining, okay, this is a low risk contract. If I'm talking about a low risk contract, I'm signing a contract for a refresh of office supplies. And let's even make it easier. And it has a termination for convenience in it. So there are things that would say, oh, okay, well, just go ahead and sign this thing. It doesn't matter. But I do think that over the next 5 years to 10 years, we're going to need to be we as humans are going to go through these gates, same as you getting in the Waymo car for the first time. Before you, as the mayor or governor of some place, before you allow cars on your streets that are just roaming freely and disrupting the cab industry and, maybe creating safety issues, what's step one? You got to go get in a freaking Waymo car yourself and experience it and go, actually, this is great. I actually feel safe. Now I'm not worried about whether the driver might be presenting some discomfort or worse, some risk to me, some harm, just because this is a stranger in a small space with me that's now in control of my life. So you've got to go experience it first, and then you're going to go through a series of steps that gets you comfortable. And I think our progress from simple administrative procurement through sophisticated, you start getting into sourcing. Would I feel comfortable with AI helping me create a short list of suppliers? Absolutely. Would that be a final decision for me? Probably not, until I've been through that 5 or 10 times and realized that I can never improve the short list. I'm going to go try after it does it. And it's no, it never happens. It always gives me the very best short list. And then I kind of push that one into the administrative space and I move up to the, you know what I mean? You just kind of start trusting the gates in terms of what the AI is going to do, and then it will just move you right through the process. And I think
I was going to say that's just a key point, because people talk about AI and the promise of AI, but then it is about the change management that goes along with it. And you just can't ignore that as part, like you said, people need to go through that. And it's very hard to predict how quickly people will become comfortable with certain things, right? Be that getting in a Waymo, be that signing a new contract with a supplier. So I think you're spot on with that, for that particular observation.
So, interesting, carrying that forward, when will I be comfortable signing a contract versus when will my CEO or you or another business or another country, some places will just, they won't get there for a long time. It'll just, my parents still, I feel bad saying this, but my parents got scammed with a kind of old people fraud where they kind of tricked them into giving them access to their bank and took $25,000 from them. Even before that, they were super risk averse for online transactions and online banking. And they're in their late 80s now, and they'll go to their grave without comfort of And for me and you, that's like 20-year-old technology that we talked about at the beginning, like online purchasing and banking and all this stuff. But for them, that they'll just never embrace it. They'll be done with life, and it'll just happen that way. That sounds really dismal. Sorry I brought that up, but it's just everybody's going to have their own appetite for it, and there will be implications of that. I mean, I look at what my parents are going through, and part of the fraud that they experience, I think, is because they're unfamiliar with the technology, right? They were easier to trick because of that. And I think people that are slow to adopt AI and technology in general, like there's a consequence to that, you know?
Procurement's usually quite slow with tech adoption, which is why I see this as a big opportunity for procurement to reinvent itself, get ahead of the inevitable conversations that'll come to say, like, you need to digitize in this way, you need to be using agents more, you need to be automating more, and you need to be focused on more strategic stuff. Like, let's not, as a function, allow that to happen to us. This is like perfect, because the low risk use cases are in ops and procurement and HR, and where you can automate and use agents. So we should be embracing that opportunity, I think. But separate to that, Conrad, like, let's say the admin gets automated away, and I think people get comfortable with that. You get all this extra time. Yeah. What do you do with that time? That's a thought experiment that I think is worthwhile. Like, okay, you don't need to spend 30 minutes of your day setting up meetings. You don't need to spend ages typing up emails. You don't need to check your calendar. You don't need, all this. Yeah, like, your day is being managed for you by an AI. All the admin stuff. It's ordering the Uber. It's telling you which way to go through your Meta glasses, and all that stuff, right? So I guess you're freed now. You have all this extra time. Let's say you get back in a how the 16-hour day, right? You get 3 hours back or 4 hours back, like administrative stuff, right? Because I think this could get you more interesting, because we've been robot centered, right? You might get even more time back, but let's just stick with the agents and the AI for now. Okay. Let's say that saves you 3 hours a day, right? I guess, what do you do with just more of the same, or like, what, you take a longer lunch, or you cut the work day down from like 9 hours to 7? Like, what? I guess it's the choice, right? It's a choice that people need to make. Like, what do you do with that extra time?
So this, I know this is really ethereal stuff here, so I'm sorry, but I felt since I started my career 30 years ago that, and this is going to irritate some people, so I apologize in advance, but this idea that we've overpopulated the world has always kind of sat on the wrong side of me. I look around and I go, there's way more resources. We have plenty of resources to take care of the people we have and more. But that got my mind thinking about what the trends and everything that was happening in the world. And right now, if you look around the world, the reproduction rates of humans is really, really low, and it's going down. So we're going into a place where the new generations are not going to be as big as the old generations that are kind of coming through the pipe, and the world population is shrinking. At the same time, all of us want GDP to go up still, right? Because our wealth goes up. It's like, you know how today's machine works, right? Like, we need to grow. We need to grow the country's GDP and all these other things. And at the same time, we don't have that many workers. I've anticipated, particularly with like the baby boomers leaving the workforce, we would be in this place where we are in desperate need of more people to work, to do the jobs. It just so happens that it's coinciding with this massive development of technology to free up a bunch of worker hours that need to be implemented every day. So at a macro level, I would say there's big things in motion that there's way more work to do than we have humans to do the work. And I think if you bring that down into your procurement department now, just to get practical about it, I talk to procurement teams every week. And you know what they're stuck on? This administrative stuff. And when I pull in a little deeper and say, well, how are you doing supplier management? They're not. They're wishing they had a preferred supplier program. They're aspiring to do quarterly business reviews in a meaningful way. They're again aspiring for, value development and like all of these things. my belief after talking to all these procurement teams is that 80, maybe even 90% of all procurement energy today is focused on this administrative stuff. And we've been dreaming and hoping to be able to get to that other stuff. And maybe it's just been an excuse, and this is a watch out what you ask for, but that stuff goes away now. And now you are you're a relationship manager. You're managing the relationship with your stakeholders. You're managing the relationship and the quality and the improvements with your suppliers. Yeah, that's not the same kind of person. That's what I talked about before. If I've built my entire career on being kick-ass administrative operations guy, and all that stuff kind of goes away, and now it's my job to actually say, I mean, your question is like hits me in the heart. Like, what do you do with your extra 4 hours a day? I think most people aren't going to know what to do because they think inside of instructions. Like, I get up today and I run the report and I do this and I go do that, and like all of this stuff is agent worthy. Like, how about okay, well, I'm going to actually and I think the agent can tell you, where to focus your supplier management stuff and but it is it's like this is pioneering procurement next generation here, which we actually move from the administration into the relationship management side of procurement, and everything changes.
Yeah, and Dr. Alabi said that same point. You remember, like, I think just the message she pushes is procurement is going to fundamentally change. And speaking of change, hello, Natasha. Nice to see you.
Hi, guys. Sorry,
Hello.
did I miss everything?
You know what? We have the recording going, and we're having this jam session about technology and AI that's just fascinating. You're going to love going back to listen to this, and it's just going to get deeper and deeper. OpenAI released a browser this week or last week that basically has an agent built into the browser that is like, just prepare to have your brain explode when you see what this thing could do. Gemini on the Google side, they're releasing theirs in December, according to an AI search.
So how will it make our life easier? What will it do for us?
It will democratize agents. You can just tell your browser to go, book a flight for you or set up the calendar, or you can tell your browser to interact with SAP. You can tell your like imagine like an agent that you understand, an agent today, but native inside the browser that anybody anywhere could just have access to tell it to do what needs to get done. And agents weren't so far out of reach. I mean, I spent the better part of 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks, not like a whole week. I went and built an agent myself inside of like Google Space. And I think I invested probably an hour into building it. It wasn't super complicated. It was a little tricky to get it to the finish line. But now I can just like open up stuff on the webpage and say, go do this. And it'll just go do it. So
what does it do for you?
Let your imagination run free. Yeah. I was telling Zach,
go ahead and build my sales campaign.
Well, in this case, in agent mode, it has a couple of different modes of the browser, but full agent mode, it can actually interact with my application. So I said this earlier, so this is a bit of a repeat here at the end, but the agent mode AI, I can give it a test, and I can give it very simple test instructions and ask it to go into the application and test and see if the application is set up properly. So it can act inside the application, just like you've seen RPA do in the past, where it's like clicking buttons and putting data into fields, and like we need to get Casey in here at some point, or we'll get up to speed on these ourselves, and we'll do a show and tell, walk through this stuff. But
yeah, I think for your benefit, Natasha, Conrad was saying basically it figured out how to use graphite by itself, right? So you can do a lot of stuff just by prompting it, and it will go and actually execute actions in graphite. So you don't need to actually go into the system at all to search a supplier or to issue, trigger a workflow to follow up on stuff. Like, it'll just do that in the browser on the application. And we talked about how some of these applications are now going to be designed because they're designed for humans today, but now they're going to be designed for agents as well. And so there's going to be changes in the architecture of an application to allow an agent to, and ultimately we went down this rabbit hole, but of like agents are going to take away all the admin, right, of our personal lives and our professional lives. And so if you're getting 3 or 4 hours a day back Conrad made the great point that if you're an admin super user, like if you're really good at your job because you're great at admin, like I think those people might be the most at risk because the agents are going to take all that away. But then it brings more human fundamental questions around, okay, everyone's got 3-4 hours back in their day. Let's say everyone adopts AI. And
what are they going to do with it?
What do we do with the 3-4 hours a day that
this
you
is
get back,
this is
where
where
you're not
TikTok
having to go
comes
systems
to play.
Send emails or schedule meetings or even hail a cab or any of that stuff. So this was an awesome conversation, Conrad. I think, what did we cover today? Covered quite a lot. We covered the agents taking the admin out of the work, out of our personal lives. We covered what that means for people to actually adopt this. I think it's going to take a while for individuals and businesses to actually get comfortable with agents executing things on their behalf, right? And I think you need to be cognizant of that kind of journey. We covered also that agents ultimately will be an empowering thing, and that they'll save us lots of time, giving us 3-4 hours a day back in our diaries. And there are fundamental human questions that arise around, well, what do we as people then going to spend doing that time? And more so for procurement, who maybe 80% of the job for some procurement functions today is administrative. So once we cross that threshold in procurement, well, it's a whole new world. I think we need to craft whole new approaches to how we actually run procurement in our businesses because of the potential of agents to do this. And I think Atlas and what you talked us through on Alice, what it's capable of doing, I think we can comfortably say that it will be a world where agents are doing all of the administrative, boring stuff, and that we need to wrestle with big questions in the future.
I want to see a show and tell episode with what you built, the agent you built a couple of months ago, a couple of quarters ago for the contract tool. I want to see how we would approach that with this new browser-based agent alongside it. Would we do it differently, or do we, do we get the workflow? Do we get all those same benefits? But things are moving really fast. This is, my mind is blown. It happens to me every 3 or 4 months when some new technology comes out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's moving so much faster than I anticipated. What you said during the chat really stood out to me, which is just such a big focus on change management. And that's so true, right? Back to the story about the Waymo drivers and the cities and states where it's allowed and where it's not. I mean, the technology's there, it's proven, there's data, but it's still, get in the car, like get in the Waymo car, get in the data, get in the browser, go download this. You probably can't do it. Everyone can't do it on their work computer, but go find your personal computer at home and start playing around with this Atlas browser and start imagining a future that will be better. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Get uncomfortable, right?
That's 100%.
All right.
Get uncomfortable with the impossible, because the impossible is coming.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you to all our listeners, and see you next time.
All right. Take care.